Welcome back, everybody. In my last Wild Alaska adventure, I went after Willow Ptarmigan, and I had an absolute blast chasing those snow chickens around in the snow. Provided some challenges in just getting that white on white. And so today I wanted to take you through some of the editing of some of these white birds on white snow. So the first thing we're going to do, let's just dive right into it, and we'll get into Lightroom. So I've got a selection of various photos that I've collected here and just want to kind of start getting into them. I really like this close portrait, and so let's just start with this one. You can see generally I've been shooting these birds underexposed, and the reason for that is so that I can kind of preserve some of those details. Now I was shooting these wide open, so it's sharper on the eye. The distance, I wasn't too far away from these birds, and so the shallow depth of field really shows here. That's okay, as long as that eye is in focus, I'm happy. So the first thing I'm going to do, of course, go to the crop tool. I'm just going to hold down shift so I keep my proportions right, and I'm just going to do like a tight crop in here. Kind of want to get some of these back feathers a little bit, and I want to put this eye somewhere near this upper right third. I think something like that. Looks pretty good. So next we're going to go to exposure. Gonna bump up that exposure quite a bit. Somewhere like that maybe. I might have to bump that down. Let me see if I can take down some of the highlights just to get some of that feather detail back. I'm gonna bump up my clarity just a bit here. There we go, something like that. And I think I'm gonna warm up the whole thing. There's a lot of blues going on in there, which is pretty normal for shooting in the snow and white birds, but I want to take some of that out of there. I'm gonna go just a little plus on the magenta here, just a little bit, not too much, and give it a little bit more warmth. I think 6,000 will be fine, something like that. That's looking pretty good. And you can see that that red eyebrow is concealed. So pretty soon it will start making its appearance as the males get into breeding plumage, and they start doing a lot of calling, and they're pretty fun. So I love seeing that big red eyebrow all toughed out, and yeah, I'll have to get up there for that. So but let's finish up this edit. So you can see I've got some nice detail here in the eye. We'll bring that out in Photoshop. Got some nice detail here. Some of my whites are still blown out, so let's try to drop some of those highlights, and let's see. I think I can raise those just a bit. I like some of that white. About 80. Yeah, that's probably right. So let's go ahead and just open this in Photoshop. All right, here we are in Photoshop. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go after that eye. And instead of just making a adjustment layer for this, I'm just going straight in for the dodge tool. I know that's against convention, but I'm not winning any big contests or magazine covers with these. You know, these are quick edits, so this is how I do it. This is how I roll. So what I'm doing now is I can see in this reflection of the eye, got a little bit of tree here going on, some bushes that were nearby. I've got the sky here that I'm going to bring out a little bit, and then there's the snow that's right here at the bottom. You get a little bit of a light snow, and I want to bring that out just a bit. Not too much, but just enough that you can get a good sense of that eye. Now, there we go. You see there's some life in that eye, and it looks really, really good. Next I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Topaz Labs. I have found that Topaz AI Sharpen works really well for reducing noise and sharpening up some of the details, so I'm going to do that. Here you can see it's got some presets. Motion blur, very noisy. Out of focus, very noisy. Too soft. I have found that I think this motion blur one, even though there's not really any motion blur in here, but it seems to do a nice job of kind of like reducing the noise and preserving some details. But I alternate them to the out of focus very noisy as well. So if one's not doing the job quite well, then I'll switch it up and try another one. But there you can see some nice detail here. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that one. And we're back in Photoshop, so let's finish up our piece here. So I'm going to go into, yeah, you know what? Let's try a curves adjustment layer. And I'm just going to bring these blacks down. Something like that. I'm going to do a Command I and inverse this. And then I'm going to just paint on, I want this beak to just be real dark. So we'll see how this looks. If I just paint this in here, just give this beak some presence, make it nice and dark. There we go. That's looking really good. Maybe back off that just a little bit, so I'll just take that. Yeah. There we go. Looks pretty good. Yeah, so I think I like that. Just a hint of the feathers here. Again, there's not a lot of detail in them. Most of the detail is right here on the head where I want it. Got a little bit of texture here in some of the other feathers around the bird. Nice soft background, and the only thing really missing from this one is throw my signature on here. And again, I use Creative Cloud libraries, and I've got my logo here, and it's a Illustrator document, so it's vector, so I can scale this infinitely, and it retains all of its detail. And I can just slap it on here onto a photo, and then I change the blending mode here. Something like, I want something soft, so maybe like overlay. I think that looks pretty good. Yeah. And then I'll just save that. And then I have a couple of different places where I like to save these. So, and I have a lot of ptarmigan photos from this year. I've been up to photograph them several times, and every time it's been a blast. I've been taking some folks out. So if that's something you would like to do, get in touch with me, and I can take you out after these willow ptarmigan, and we'll have a blast shooting these birds. Usually in the wintertime, it's good times to go after them is January, February, and March. December is pretty dark, and the window to shoot them is pretty small. So I would say January, February, and March is pretty good for them. So yeah, a lot of fun. All right, so willow ptarmigan. Yeah, I have like a ton of these. So I'm going to just name this a Willow Ptarmigan 19. Super creative with my naming convention here, but it works. Okay, so if I want to save this for the web, what I typically do is after this finishes saving, we will change the size. So I'm going to go up here to image, go to image size, change this to 16 inches wide at 180 resolution, and then save as a copy. Make this a JPEG, and it likes to throw this little copy into the name, so I'm just going to delete that and then save it up. So there we go. I'm not going to save it because I shrank it, and I don't want to do that. So let's see where we are. So we started with this, and here we are right here, and this is where we ended. So we went from here to this finished piece. I think it looks pretty good. What do you think? Hope you like it. And I think we should try another one before we wrap up this editing video. And I love, love, love these shots where their feet's up in the air and the snow's flying. It's just so much fun. I really like this one, actually, 'cause you got all this snow going nuts here. But let's see. I've got a couple of another close ones here. This is a nice close-up, but we already did a close-up, so let's do something. I've also got this one, kind of a nice bit of a little further away. This one's kind of a nice one, except his head's turned a little bit. Let's go with this one. You can see his feet. So let's go to develop. And of course, the first thing I'm gonna do is get the crop tool. Now this guy was like running down a hill, so that's why it's sloping down. So I am not gonna correct for the angle and straightening out my horizon, just because that's not how this was. So I think I'm gonna do this guy on this lower left third, and I think I like that. You can see that my exposure was pretty on this guy. I didn't blow out those highlights right there. What I'm gonna do is just kind of raise the exposure overall just a hair, bring in a little bit of contrast, drop my highlights down just a bit. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. I'm going to go into select subject. There we go. And I'm just going to bring the highlights down there. Yeah, all the way. There we go. I think that looks cool. So maybe up just a little bit more. I still have some detail there. I didn't quite blow those out. So I think that looks pretty good. Another thing I'm going to do real quick, grab a linear gradient, something like that. Reverse clarity on that. Exposure, bring that up a bit. Yeah, something like that. I think looks pretty good. Yeah, this is looking good. So let's go in here and we'll go ahead and open in Photoshop. All right, now this is in Photoshop. Going after that eye. So I'm going to actually take this to the shadows. So I've got my dodge tool here and I've put the range on shadows, exposure at 100%, because I want to bring out some of the color in that eye. There we go. That's enough. Just once on that. Then I switch to midtones. And now I can start bringing that out a little bit more. It just needs a little help at the beginning. I've got a little bit brighter here, just kind of to get that snow. And just a little bit brighter right there. There we go. You can see that's bringing out some life in the eye. And if I go back, yeah, looks pretty good. I'm going to, on this one, I think I'm just going to burn down this bill a little bit. There we go. Not too much. I like that. And I'm going to go into Topaz Labs, going to Topaz Sharpen. Sharpen this bad boy up. There we go. And I'm going to go with motion blur. There might be just a little bit of motion blur in this one. It's hard to tell. I guess if it's hard to tell, that's a good thing. But I'm going to clean it up just a little bit here, just to make sure. And this reduces the noise too, so it'll look really nice when this is done. All right. Topaz AI Sharpen has done its magic, and we're back in Photoshop. Now I shot this with the Nikon Z6 II with the FTZ adapter and the Nikon 200 to 500, and it's a really nice combination. It's really nice and lightweight, and yeah, it's nice to go on these adventures with that light camera. Nice thing about these mirrorless cameras is that you really get the exposure in camera, and you don't, it's real time. So you're looking at the exposure that you're getting, which is phenomenal. You don't have to, pre-expose and set your camera all up and then hope the light doesn't change. Like it's there. And if light changes, you just adjust while you're looking through the viewfinder. And I think that's so phenomenal. Yeah, it works out really well. So I can tell I've got a little bit of a dust spot right there. So let's take care of that. Get rid of that thing. Yeah, that looks pretty sweet. I'm going to try one more thing here. I'm going to select subject. I just use my little magic selector here. I call it the magic selector. It just works so well to select subjects. Something like that. I just want a general shape of the bird. There we go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Or does it? Okay. Feather, I'm going to go with like a 5. I'm going to feather this so that, if I hit Q and show you the mask, then you can see that this is nice and feathered. It's not a hard edge. It's got a lot of softness to it, which is perfect what I want. So I'm going to go, I just want to try something. I'm going to duplicate this bird. So now I have just that bird on that layer. And I'm going to go up here to filter. I'm going to go to sharpen and unsharp mask. So I want to see what this is going to look like. And I might bump it up to like 3 and we'll see what that looks like. Yeah, that sharpened it up really nicely. So I'm going to go with that. I think I'm going to call that done. I think that looks pretty good. I love seeing this foot up and some of that snow flying, and I've got some nice connection with this bird. I've got his eye right here, and that looks good. A little bit of a catch light and some character in the eye. I think it's exposed well, and I've got a little bit of color with some of these blues. So I like how this one turned out. I hope you do too. The only thing missing, of course, throw that signature on there. And I think I'm going to plop this one down right about there. Throw an effect on it. Oh, let's try that one. Hard light. And then I'm going to drop the opacity down. Something like that. Go through here and do a save as. My Birds of Alaska folder. Ooh, I'm in Willow Ptarmigan 20. This is it, number 20. All right, we'll get this saved and resize it for the web. Here we go. All right, image size. Go with 16 and then 180 resolution. Pretty much I usually do like either 14 or 16 on these wider photos at 180 resolution. Tends to show up really well on social media. Not quite good enough to print. So people can't rip off my work. All right, JPEG, and I'm going to get rid of that copy again. There we go. So let's go ahead and see where we were and what we did. All right, guys. So we're going to go to my import and see what we started with. So this is the before. And this is the after. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think that looks pretty good. And yeah, what a fun time. That was a blast chasing those snow chickens up there. But this is going to do it for this editing session. Just wanted to show you kind of how I edit white birds in white snow. It can be a real challenge, but it's a lot of fun too. So I hope you've gotten something out of it. And yeah, thanks for joining me. I look forward to another adventure coming soon. Until then, we'll see you next time.